everyone, welcome to Quirky Cooking Chats. I'm your host Jo Whitten and I'm so happy you could join me today. This podcast is kind of in its second season. It started as a quirky journey about 5 or 6 years ago. I began the podcast to share the story of my son's journey through healing from OCD and anxiety and gut health issues, and I really focused a lot on the GAPS diet and how it was going for us. And then we started interviewing all sorts of practitioners and parents and farmers and all sorts of people. And you can listen to those past podcasts on my YouTube channel and also on the Wellness Couch channel. A couple of years ago, when COVID started, I found that my life changed a lot, as many of you probably found. I wasn't traveling. I was at home with my family, tucked away in a quiet country town. And I found that people really needed help with the practical everyday changes for health. So the cooking, the planning, the time organization, the bulk buying and bulk cooking and bulk prep, how to store food, how to look after your family and help their immune system to be strong and robust, how to work on gut health in a really doable way. And so I started to do more podcasts and videos that were built around basic practical topics, answering listeners' questions and demonstrating lots of dishes in my kitchen. So I'm continuing on with that now. So I had a break for a few months because I was busy working on my new cookbook, which is now finished. Simple Healing Food. You can find this in my online store. And I had to really take some time out to focus on the book. So the podcast was put on hold for a while. But now I'm back and I'm really excited to be able to start sharing with you some more interviews and information to help you on your journey to good health. In this podcast, Elyse Comerford, integrative nutritionist and GAPS practitioner, joins me and we talk about the most basic principles of gut health and how to begin healing, how to figure out whether you have gut health issues, what's the red flags, how to work out small steps that you can take towards healing without feeling completely overwhelmed and stressed. So Elise and I run an online program called the Gut Health Formula, and we do that together 4 times a year. It's an 8-week program with 12 months access. You can join at different times throughout the year, and we help to coach people through those changes that they need to make for their health in a really gentle and sustainable way. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can see the link below. But I'm going to go ahead and get Elise on the show with me and we're going to chat about gut health, and I hope you find it really helpful. If you have any questions that you would really like me to dive into on this podcast, please email me at help@quirkycooking.com.au. Thanks guys for listening. Enjoy. I'm so happy to have Elise with me today. You all know Elise, right?
Yes. Hello. Probably by now.
Surely. Let's have a Q&A about gut health, and we'll answer some of the questions that we've been asked a lot, and just help people to understand what principles of gut health they need to work on first, and which direction to go. And Elise is such an expert at this. Of course, I had to get her on the podcast. Well, she's helped me so much, and I know she's helped so many of you who are listening. And Elise and I run an online program together called the Gut Health Formula. So you may have heard of it, and we're just going to explain a little bit about why we think it's important to look after your gut health, although most of you probably also know that that's important now, and just some little ways that you can get started if you're new to all of this. Elise, do you want to kick off with a little bit of an explanation of what symptoms of poor gut health look like? Because that's one question I get asked a lot, is how do I actually know if I have leaky gut or poor gut health? How do I know? Do I need to go and get a heap of tests or what?
Okay, so that's a hard one to answer in the sense that we'd be here all day with me listing the possible symptoms. So what's good to understand is how important the gut is as the basis of our health. So from there, you can then have a think about every aspect of your health and if you're thriving. And if you're not, then chances are there is something going on in your gut.
There's the main symptom. Are you thriving?
Are you thriving? That would be my first question is, are you thriving? Yeah. And then if you're not, how are you not thriving? Is your sleep good? How's your hair, skin and nails? They're just simple basic ones that you can just have a look at. When it comes to hair, skin and nails, our body is very smart, and if we're not getting enough nutrition, it gives up on the things first that don't matter as much. So hair, skin and nails don't matter as much for our survival. Taking care of our vital organs is the most important thing. So hair, skin and nails are one of the first things that our body will just say, well, I don't have time for that because I'm not getting enough nutrition. The way that relates to the gut is if you do have a leaky gut, if your gut's not healthy, you're then not absorbing the nutrition you need from food. So you could think about it, are you the kind of person that's been eating whole foods for a long time? This is like Joe's story and like my story. Eating whole foods for a long time thinking, I'm eating so well. That person over there is eating McDonald's every day. I'm eating so well. They look okay. I still don't feel okay. You know, a lot of people, I hear that a lot, that people go through that. Like, oh, like my
how can that person smoke and drink and every day and they look healthier than me? That was my question back years ago.
Yeah. So if you feel like you're eating well and you don't, and you feel like I should be healthier than I am, there's something probably going on with your gut. If you've got digestive symptoms, that sounds really basic and simple, but I still get asked that one because it isn't in the end. A lot of professionals in the area, I'm not going to start naming anyway, I'm not going to start naming different, what do you call them, modalities, but there are some professionals that will say, well, you eat has nothing to do with something that's going on in your digestive tract. So I have a lot of people coming to me thinking that maybe it's not to do with their gut health when it is a symptom that's happening in their gut. So if we look at what else comes from our gut, it's if we have gut dysbiosis and leaky gut, then we have a situation where more toxins are going to be created, for one. If we have too many, like the bad bacteria, that microbiome's out of balance, it's creating more of the toxicity. And then if you have leaky gut as well, that's going through into the blood quite easily. And so then we're having this situation where the gut is toxic and that's leaking through into the blood. And so that's putting a load onto the liver. And then there's so many issues that can come from your liver not being happy. So from hormone issues, anxiety, depression, because of the production of our neurotransmitters relies on our liver. We need our liver to be detoxing our hormones. So that's why it causes hormone issues. If we can't clear our hormones properly, we end up with hormone imbalances. And thyroid. So 80% of the thyroid hormone relies on liver to produce the thyroid hormones. Also, it kind of then goes down the path of if your liver's not happy, then you're not going to be producing enough bile and sending that to the digestive system to digest fat properly. And so then you're going to be deficient in your fat-soluble nutrients, vitamins A, E, D, and K. So think skin health, brain health, energy. So there's lots of things coming, bone health. So lots of things coming from there. So you can see there's just this knock-on effect that happens. And it really, the gut relates to every other part of our body. If you are fatigued, if your joints are aching, if you have allergies or intolerances, if you have anxiety, depression, learning difficulties, behavioral issues. So it's brain fog. So memory issues, skin issues. It's really, if a human isn't thriving, gut health is going to be a part of the picture. I never try and sell it as being, well, forget all your therapists. This is the answer. I have it right here. I would never sell it like that. It's really that gut health is always going to be a piece of the puzzle in the journey. Yeah, and
if you want to thrive, you need to stack the deck. So figure out every area of your life that you can work on one step at a time, and gut health is one of those areas. Reducing stress in your life is another area. Making sure you're drinking clean water is another area. Getting out into nature and the sunshine is another area. So there's all these other things that impact on your health, but gut health is so foundational. And for us, that's where we saw the biggest changes when we started really working on using food as medicine to heal the gut. That's when we saw the big changes in our family.
Absolutely. And when your gut health is not good and you are experiencing the symptoms of that, so for example, for me, it was like IBS symptoms, bloating, pain, distension, discomfort after eating, energy levels were low, and then I was getting a lot of sinus infections, and there was a whole lot of other stuff going on as well. But when I was experiencing that, it meant that I couldn't thrive in all areas of my life, because it's really hard to go out and have joy and connection and connect with community and, all these other aspects of life that are really important. So if you've heard me talk before, you might have heard me talk about the blue zones. I really love the blue zones. They're the areas in the world that most people live over 90 and 100. And what they found is there's 9 factors that go into people living that long, those long and healthy lives. And nutrition is just one piece of that puzzle. And it's not perfect nutrition. It's just generally whole food, mostly plants, and very varied in all the different blue zones. There's not just one specific way. And when I say mostly plants, that's not go vegetarian or vegan. It is with meat and animal foods as part of the diet, but something, and we might go into this further when we talk about the gut healing diets, but something people don't realize, they think, oh, GAPS or paleo, oh, you just eat heaps of meat. I've never eaten more vegetables in my life. Same.
So cleansing. So we might give you a little glimpse of the sorts of things that we dealt with when we were struggling with our gut health, just to help people understand, because I think it helps to hear someone else's story, and we won't go into it in detail because both of us have told our stories many times on this podcast. But for our family, it all started with Isaac going downhill with his mental health and feeling very anxious, depressed. He had OCD, he had all the phobias and fears, and you name it. It was just full on all the time, screaming, crying. It just pretty much halted our lives. And we had to really start working hard on our gut health to help him. And it really did help. And he's just improved so much. In 1 or 2 months, we saw major changes. For me, it was, and we all had food intolerances in the family. For me, I had really pretty severe food intolerances, especially to dairy. That was the big one for me. I couldn't even eat butter or ghee. I would get really sick from that. I also was very underweight. I got down to 42 kilos at one stage as an adult. I also had skin issues. I was exhausted all the time. I had a
now
cold.
Look at skin.
There's a big scar here that's healing, but other than that, I'm good. It's actually looking really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. We had so many, like candida, mood swings. This is like within the family. Snoring, histamine issues, constant colds, chest infections. I had the up and down blood sugar levels constantly and sort of borderline hypoglycemic. I had low blood pressure. I had, just exhaustion all the time. And that just, in 1 year, the changes that I saw in my health were unbelievable. And those of you who've seen my before and after photos, it's just amazing. Elise, do you want to mention the kinds of things that working through gut health helped for you?
Yeah, so I had a lot of IBS from as long as I can remember. So either constipation or diarrhea. I just thought it was normal. I didn't even realize it was an issue until I went to the doctors once, and for the first time when I was about 15, I was actually asked what my stools were like. I had a lot of candida issues. So I had the furry white tongue, sugar cravings, binge eating. I used to get thrush a lot, acne. So I had a lot of skin stuff going on. I would get sinus infections, ear infections. cysts in my breasts, cysts on my ovaries,
Ouch.
all of which are like kind of candida based things. I would also get swollen glands a lot. This one I only remembered recently. So yeah, I had some weird things like that going on. It was all very sporadic. So I was not a sickly person at all. It was just these things that were always popping up for me.
You weren't thriving.
Yeah, I was not thriving, and I felt tired a lot. So I was really low in energy. My iron used to be chronically low, blood pressure chronically low as well. And as I was getting into my 20s, so that was kind of like through my teens. And then as I was getting into my 20s, definitely the gut stuff was getting a lot worse. So the IBS, the bloating, the distension, the discomfort. I think I experimented with cutting out dairy, and then I remember having it again one day and just being like doubled over in pain, like, okay,
I
yeah,
remember that too.
that was definitely part of the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just this collection of things going on that I got into my 20s and thought, you know, this has got to change because this is really starting to affect me more and more on a day-to-day basis. And anxiety and depression was really starting to play a big part as well. And I was getting a bit kind of manic depressive, and that was really scaring me. I remember calling my mum and just saying, Mum, I think I'm bipolar. And it was just really starting to scare me. But I didn't connect the dots. I didn't realize the gut stuff and the brain stuff was connected in any way at all. So I just went on a bit of a journey of trying to deal with the gut stuff, and then having my son. I was already kind of on the bit of the gut health journey then already, but once I was pregnant with him, you know, it's about another human. And so I was just really, just on that journey, taking it step by step, not doing anything perfectly. It was just about learning as I went, and it was always shifting and changing as I learnt new things and changed my approach a little bit. And food really helped me. So using food as medicine, I did heal my gut. And I then could tolerate all the foods that I couldn't tolerate before. I could go through every day without this pain and distension. I remember saying to someone, do you feel like you've got to like move your belly around all the time? Like it's like, and they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, it's just not normal. Like I just thought everybody felt like this. I always felt this discomfort, like I was always trying to wanted to press on my belly and was always kind of pulling.
Isaac used to do the same thing, just like press right in the sides to kind of get it to feel better.
Yeah. And so that journey for me, it really, then I was able to go through every day without having pains in the belly, and would see my energy really improving. And so I saw a lot of that improve. And then so for me, it was like, okay, diet is the answer. Like diet is the answer to life. Nutrition is the answer to life. This is the way and the only way. And I need to tell everybody about it, which is why I do what I do now. But
I think everyone does that when they find a diet that they feel agrees with them.
Yeah. And I can see why it makes sense to me now. I'm like, because that's what made me feel better. So I felt like that was what I had to maintain forever, and really was like the pinnacle of my focus. And so then my journey with stress really took me on a whole new journey of understanding and bringing in all aspects of life. It was like, okay, gut health wasn't my answer and whole answer. It was my gateway to be able to then focus on all the areas of life that really matter. So where it was before when my health was not good, it was a barrier to me enjoying and experiencing life to the fullest. And so it was, rather than it being an answer, it was more just taking a barrier away so that there was no longer that blockage, and I could then not stress over food and wonder if I was going to have to run to the toilet in the middle of dinner with friends. And, you know, I didn't have to worry about anything like that. It was like, okay, I feel good. I have energy. Now I can focus on what's really important. So that was a massive lesson for me, I'd say. One of the biggest.
Yeah, I think the same thing happened to me, just being able to cope with everyday life without needing constant naps and, you know, taking Panadols for headaches and all these things that seem so normal when you're not thriving and you don't realize it. And then afterwards, when you're feeling so much better, you're like, wow, I really wasn't feeling good.
Yeah.
You look back and remember.
Absolutely. And everyone knows someone that's not, like, usually that's doing worse in terms of their health. And it can be really tempting to go, oh, well, I'm okay. Like,
not
I'm
as bad as someone else.
Yeah, and it's like I have some clients that think, oh, they say to me, oh, but I know like what I'm dealing with is not that bad. Like, I know you've got clients that are much worse. In the end, we're having our own experience. And if you feel like you are not thriving in day-to-day life, then I think you deserve to focus on that and change something so you are. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's so true. I don't know about you, Elise, but I think most mothers have a tendency to put themselves last, and everybody else gets helped and fed and looked after, and have you taken your supplements, and make sure you do this and do that, and then you sort of get left till last because you're just too busy. And I think I did that for so many years, running on an empty tank, and I had to learn, okay, it's time to fill up my tank, get myself healthy and well, and I'm so much more able to help others, including my family now.
Absolutely. And I do that. I'm like, I take good care of myself.
I do too now.
Yeah. So I think I learned that lesson early on in parenting with Dylan. I do. And I think I also, we can get onto the topic of parenting now, but I also speak well of my parenting. So I like to break that stigma. I just know so many mums that are so hard on themselves. And I'm like, no, I'm a good parent. Like, I'm not going to, it's okay to think you're a good parent too.
Yeah, definitely. So let's try and go through a few of the questions that we get asked a lot about gut health just quickly. Can you think of a couple that you want to talk about, and I'll put in a couple that I want to talk about?
Okay, so the first one that comes to mind is, should I go and do XYZ testing? Should I go and do all of this first? And how do I find a baseline? And like, what, how do
which test do I do? And
yeah, so that's the one. And like, should I go and do MTHFR testing? Should I see if I have these gene mutations? Should I do microbiome testing? So something in my approach is that I like to keep things really, really simple. And this is what I say my approach, but it's what I've learned in my education as a GAPS practitioner, being mentored by Becky Plotner, who is a fantastic GAPS practitioner. It's really about taking a simple approach and taking it back to the root cause. And that's why most people, when they do read Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride's book, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, but it's really about taking it back to the basics and having a simple approach. And I find that I rarely need to test. So my first step would never be testing. It's in a very, very, very rare case that it ever would be. And it would only be when I'm really concerned about where somebody is at mentally. I might do a neurotransmitter test before I touch anything, because I really want to know what's going on, if someone's high risk, if we're really concerned about someone. So there's not many cases where I would start out with testing. The other area that I might start out with testing is if someone knows that they need to work on the gut health of their child, they're trying to get their partner on board, and they say, if we did testing and I could show them something, a baseline to go off, that'll really help, for them to understand what's going on too. So in that case, I might do testing then too. But in terms of getting a baseline or understand what's going on with someone's health, testing when your body is in a bit of a muddle is very confusing. You can test every symptom and you can get answers. And all the answers will still point to the same thing, that there's gut issues. So I find that I only test when it will change my approach. And the approach at the start for nearly everyone I work with is very similar. There'll just be slight differences depending on what's going on. But it's really about focusing on the same things. So it's healing and repairing the gut lining so that your body is able to absorb nutrition and it's not absorbing a whole lot of toxicity. It's changing the microbiome so that where the gut isn't this source of toxicity. It's supporting the stomach acid production so you can break down food. It's supporting the liver so that your liver can clear out and your liver can do its job. It's supporting the kidneys so the kidneys can do its job at clearing toxins out of the system. And you do all of this, and basically it's like rather than going in trying to change anything at the start, it's like just pulling all the little plugs out that are blocking the way, and getting the system flowing properly. When you get every little cog in the wheel turning the way it's meant to be turning, and you're making sure the food that goes in, your body's actually absorbing it, and you're restoring all the nutrient deficiencies, our bodies are constantly seeking homeostasis. So homeostasis means that point of vitality is a really basic way of saying it. Our bodies are always seeking that. They're geared to be heading towards that. Our bodies have all the system it needs to heal and repair. We're constantly going through that process of replacing cells and healing and repairing. So when we have a system that is geared to head in that direction, we just need to make sure that nothing is in its way. And that when you think of health in that way, that the body is healing itself, we're just creating the circumstances where it can. It really simplifies the way we approach things. And it's something I talk about a lot, and I repeat it a lot. And with some of my clients, we need to talk it over again and again and again, because it has been so drilled into us that we've got to take action on the body to change something. That we've got to, clear this out, or cleanse this, or fix this, or do this, that we've got to figure out what the problem is, and then we've got to, put something in there to action it. So it's really kind of changing the way we're looking at the way our body works, that given the right circumstances, our bodies are able to thrive. So we just need to set those circumstances up. So that's what I focus on with someone first. And then if we get to a point where we're doing all of that, never will I do all of that with someone and not see improvement. So there you've just saved yourself thousands of dollars on testing, because you've seen most of the things improve, and then there might just be this one thing that's not. This one aspect, something's going on that's just not quite getting there, then we might test. And then we're testing something really specific, and we know we've done all these other things to clear the way. So it makes the testing more focused, and you'll actually get something from it in that case, where otherwise, if anyone just starts testing, you will find things, and it's rewarding as a practitioner and as a patient, that like, oh, we did the test and we got this is going on. Like it feels like you're getting answers, but like I said, it doesn't really guide the approach. And I have a lot of clients come to me with all their testing that they've done with other practitioners, and they send me all the tests, and I'm like, and so what came from this testing? Nothing really. Like they don't even know, like it says things, but they don't really guided their approach, and there's been no resolution.
Yeah, what takeaways have you gotten from it?
Yeah,
it can be a bit like this great big jigsaw puzzle, and doing the testing is supposed to help, but it's still like a big jumble.
It just that down all the wormholes in all these different directions.
Yeah, and then it's like so overwhelming. Whereas if you just start working on those simple steps to begin healing the gut, like you say, it simplifies things, and then you can focus on what needs to be focused on.
Yeah.
And this is something that we get asked all the time, but how do I begin? Because I'm so overwhelmed with my health. I'm so stressed out about changing anything. My kids won't eat new foods. I don't know how to do this. This is probably the main thing I get asked is, but how do I start? How do I start working on healing the gut? So this is something that we really go into in great detail in our gut formula program, where we take you one little step at a time towards healthier choices and towards foods that will heal, as well as lifestyle changes that help with healing.
And that's where we really start with the lifestyle stuff.
Lifestyle changes. Yeah. So reducing the stress, learning to find the areas of your life that are most important to start working on, and picking one thing and starting there, and not trying to do everything at once. And when you start a jigsaw puzzle, first of all, maybe you get the side piece, the edge pieces, and you start working on them first. And then you start finding the colors that go together and the patterns that go together. And it's kind of like that. I made an analogy.
I know, I love it, Jo. As you're saying, I'm like, yes, that makes sense. I love analogies. They speak my language.
And then it makes sense. But if you just start randomly trying to put pieces together, it's just impossible. So do you? Good analogy.
That analogy.
I just thought it just then. Okay, so do you want to? Shall I go through a few of the steps, or do you want to?
Yeah, you go. I've just done a lot of talking. You can talk.
Okay. So really simply, we talk about reducing stress. We talk about bringing in the really foundational healing foods and how to do that. So things like bringing in short cooked meat stocks and how is it going to help. And it's just finding those foods that actually build the cells of the gut lining. So foods that are easy to digest and they're rich in amino acids. So your meat stocks and your egg yolks and your good fats. So these things we start working into the diet without changing any other aspects of the diet yet. And then we help people to start bringing in some fermented foods because that helps to rebalance the microbiome. And then starting to find meals and snacks and breakfasts and all the things that will fit into your family and your lifestyle that are nourishing and that are simple and that are doable, because we really believe that if you get this really great plan, you've got this beautiful meal plan that has everything detailed and you've decided this is what we're going to do, but it's not doable and it's not sustainable on an everyday level, then it's no use. You're going to give up, and then you'll probably be more discouraged than you were before and say, well, that didn't work, and you may not try it again.
Exactly.
So we'd rather...
Often it's because I couldn't do it, because there's something wrong with me, because I have no willpower, or I'm this or I'm that. That's what we do. And especially if you get that kind of program or something and it's maintainable for about 2 to 4 weeks, like, and anything beyond that is just not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
Yeah. But in those 2 to 4 weeks you see improvement, then you will just yo-yo back and forth from that constantly, because it's like, well, it was working, so it's just me, that there's just something wrong with me that I can't keep doing it because it was working. And that's why it can be really hard to get that message across, that it's like, if something's not sustainable, then it's not working.
Yes.
So that's really important to understand.
And one of the things that we have to really constantly reiterate in our program is slow down.
Yeah.
No, you can't jump ahead to module 5 and have all the recipes. I'm sorry, you've got to take this one step at a time.
Exactly.
Slow down.
Yeah, we're always reminding people as well that there is enough information in there to keep you going for 12 months. Like, there's 12 months access to the program. And so we get a lot of people like, oh, I'm so behind. And it's like, it's okay. The 8 weeks that you have us with you, supporting you through it, is, for some people, they might not change much at all in that time. It's just to spend that time just hearing it all, understanding it, sitting with it, thinking about how that's going to work.
Soaking it in.
Yeah, soaking it in, maybe changing a couple of things, or maybe just working on reducing stress, knowing that all the information's there for the next 12 months to be going back and revisiting. And it's like there is nothing to lose there in that sense. But yeah, I find that's what we spend most of our time doing, is coaching people that it's okay, like, to slow it down one step at a time.
One of our main goals is to help you reduce the stress, not create more stress. Because as Elise often says,
stress trumps all.
It's really, really good to see people finally getting hold of that concept after a few weeks in the program and going, I think the penny's finally dropped. I realise now how stressed I was.
Yeah.
And how that has affected everything in my life.
Exactly.
And that it's okay to have a bit of a roller coaster and go up and down and be slow, and it's just doing those tiny little things that are going to make changes in the long term. As you start pulling out the roadblocks, you can go faster, and you start to heal quicker as the further you go along. Like, for me, I didn't feel like I saw big changes for a year, and then the big changes started happening, and I was like, wow. So, yeah, we forget how long it takes to really heal. And I think that's something to remind ourselves of, that it's okay not to see things happen super fast. It will happen if you keep building the foundations.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do take it slowly, that's when you do see the big changes. And I'd say more often than not, you'll see something. You'll see some benefits start happening. We've seen that in the group already. People are commenting about different benefits they've seen already. So, yeah, and we're happy to keep reminding people, because it took me, like, there's a massive lesson for me about stress. Like, I knew it. It's like the thing you know, but you're not embodying it. You're not living it. So it took me years to really get it with, okay, right. So rather than just kind of separating out nutrition and going, right, I have to really achieve high in this area, it's like, if you look at the whole picture and look at stress as being one input, whether it's psychological, physical, or chemical stress, which, you know, gut health falls into those. So if you look at stress as one overall input and you're trying to reduce the overall input of stress, that's when you can see, okay, well, if I'm just stressing about food all the time, that is not reducing my overall input of stress. And stress is what causes disease. So whether it's physical, psychological, or chemical stress, that is what causes inflammation. So we can be stressing over food and getting that right and running around like a headless chook trying to get all the things done for all the people. And that kind of stress and your adrenals and that whole picture that's going on there is negatively affecting your health. So you're better to go and get takeaway than you are to be extremely stressed about food. So that's where you've got to find the balance.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just thinking, I just want some small steps to begin, I'm not going to do a program right now, or I can't right now, but I want some small steps to work on. The first thing we would say is look at the busyness and the things in your life that are causing you stress. I know when I first started having, years ago, when I was really struggling with hormone issues, my naturopath that was working with me at the time said to me, are you stressed? And because that will really affect your hormones. I'm like, I'm not stressed. I love my job. I love my, all the work that I do online. I love traveling and speaking at seminars. I love homeschooling. I love all the cooking from scratch that I do. And the more we talked through it, the more I came to understand that just the constant busyness, intensity of my life, with hardly any downtime, was causing a low-level stress all the time. And that I didn't understand that was stress. I thought stress was being, depressed or anxious or whatever. And but just the constant intensity of my life was a stress on my body. So just finding those times to take time out for yourself and to take time out with your kids and your family, and just really letting things be a bit slower, slowing life down. I know a lot of us have slowed down a lot during COVID, and that could be a good thing for a lot of us. But yeah, it's just probably that's the first thing that most of us need to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it can be the hardest thing to start with. I've got clients who are like, so willing to do everything food-based, and so many at this point when it's like, right, yep, that's tangible, I can do that. And the hardest thing to do is actually the most important thing to do, and that's slowing your life down. It's really challenging, saying no to things. Yeah, it was a massive lesson for me. I thought I had it, and then I realized, oh my gosh, look at all these things I'm doing. Right, something, and it really affected my health. It put me into adrenal fatigue, and that's a big one to turn around again. That still affects me.
Yeah.
If I push too much, I can still feel the effects of that. You just don't want to get to that point of adrenal fatigue, because that's the point at which it gets taken out of your hands, how you're approaching your health, because you just have to rest. When you get to that point, you have to rest and you have to heal, and you can't go, you need to be careful with your energy levels. You need to be careful with the exercise you're doing. And if what you're doing is not sustainable, if you are that busy, stressed person that's got a lot going on and you're always rushing from one thing to the next, and there's always something on, and you're not giving yourself that downtime, you will reach a point that you burn out, because there's time, you owe that rest time to your body, and it will take it, whether you give it to it, on a day-to-day basis, or whether it takes it from you at some point when you're sick for weeks, or you've got adrenal fatigue and burnout, and you've got to, so some of my clients, it's like laying in bed for months. So I just think while it's in your control is when you want to work on that and really understand that our bodies are not designed for the lifestyles that we live. And if we just go with the flow of life, it will be busy. You really have to pay attention and be onto it to pull it back.
That's so true. Yeah, it's something you have to actually be mindful about. Yeah. Do you want to just mention any really small tips for the food side of things for people who just want to get their head around what kind of things you need to think about when you're trying to work on improving your gut health?
Okay, so the two really basics are that you want to be healing and sealing your gut lining, and then the other one's the microbiome. So they're the two real basics of gut health. So with healing and sealing the gut lining, you might be looking at meat stocks. Meat stocks are the absolute best thing you could be doing. So the difference between meat stocks and bone broths is that meat stocks are a shorter cooking time, and you're using cuts that have meat and joint and connective tissue on the bone, and they're raw. So it could be something like, you can use like chicken carcasses and necks and feet and chicken drumsticks and wings, all make great stock. You can also use things like lamb shanks, lamb soup bones if you can source those, beef ossobuco oxtail and beef soup bones. So using them all from raw, and even though there's bones in there, well, there has to be bones in there. It's got meat and connective tissue all close to the bone. So beef soup bones still make a meat stock in that it's got all the connective tissue and marrow and all those things on there. And so the cooking time is the big difference, is that when you're doing a meat stock, chicken, you're cooking for 2 hours, lamb and beef, 4 hours for lamb, beef for around 6 hours. With bone broths, it's like cooking for large amounts of time, like
24, 48.
So what's going on is that what we're really wanting for a healing stock is these amino acids like gelatin, glycine, proline that are in all the connective tissues. They're what is really healing and repairing. And when you cook for long periods of time, you cook those out. And so bone broths, even though people will still get like a gelatinous bone broth, it's gelatin from deep within the bone. It's a different thing. So what we're really needing for healing and repairing the gut is meat stocks. I still do meat stocks because I find they taste better, and I know they're the more healing stock. So they're still what I do. It's rare that I would ever cook or consume a bone broth now. And so meat stocks heal and repair the gut lining. So that's one factor. With the gut, it's a symbiotic relationship between the gut lining and the microbiome. We want both to be healthy, and they take care of each other. So meat stocks is starting that process of healing and repairing that gut lining and creating like the healthy soil for the microbiome to live in. If you're not ready to do meat stocks, then you start with gelatin. So you just buy gelatin powder, like a good grass-fed beef or pork gelatin powder, and you just start there. I do see people have results doing that. It's never going to be as much as the meat stocks, but if you have to get yourself really stressed in order to try and bring in meat stocks, that feels really overwhelming, then you're not going to get the benefits of it. It's not worth it. So starting with gelatin is a really good place to start, and I suggest just adding it to cups of tea, like particularly peppermint tea. You will not taste it in there, and smoothies and just anything that you can add it to. You can add it to food as well. So I would just be starting with gelatin and then looking at it from there, when you're ready to start the meat stocks, then moving on to that. So that's with the healing and sealing and repairing the gut lining. And then with the microbiome, so fermented foods and probiotics, that's what we're really wanting to get in there to start changing that microbiome. So this has also got your two options. You can be making your fermented food, which of course is the best option to be making it at home, but you can also buy it, which I do probably 80% of the time now, because I find it really hard to have the time to do the ferments because I have so much else going on in my life. So, and there's times at which I'll prioritize that, but then I have to let other things slide. And so, things all shift and change with what's your current priority and what you're currently focusing on. So at the moment, I buy most of my ferments because I have access to really, really good fermented food where I live. So, and most of us do if you can go to a health food shop.
Yeah.
So that's your easy option, is that you can just buy fermented foods and start bringing them into your diet. And you can also start on a probiotic. So just a good broad spectrum probiotic. That it's got quite a at least 8 different strains in it, and you're getting around at least kind of 25 to 50 billion CFUs, which is just written on the container. So you're just looking at something like that. So yeah, they're the two ones I would focus on. So you're healing and sealing the gut, and you're starting to change that microbiome. So they're the two things that would give you that kind of beginning place that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck as well, that you're going to start making some changes there.
The other thing that I would suggest is start thinking about your food as whole foods predominantly. Like, just start really looking at what you buy and saying, okay, if this is in a packet, what are the ingredients? Don't worry about the calories. Look at the ingredients. If it's got additives, preservatives, colors, even natural flavors, they say natural flavors, any of that, just put it aside. This is something to work on, I realize, but start looking for just basic ingredients. And this is one thing that for some reason we get this thing in our head that it's harder to eat healthy, but really I found it, once I started changing to whole foods, I found it so much simpler, because I would just go to the grocery store. I wouldn't even go down the packets aisles, and I would start just shopping for veggies and meat. And most of the time I didn't go to the grocery store. Most of the time I bought it from the markets or my CSA box. I'd get my lovely organic or pesticide-free veggies there. I started buying in bulk, which I talked about in the last video. And I started getting really good quality meat and veggies, and that is the basis of our diet. And really the other things are now and then foods. So if you've got really good meat and veggies and things like nuts and seeds and things like that, eggs, oils, good oils and good fats, that's sort of the basis of your shopping. So it simplifies your shopping, and then it also simplifies your cooking. So for those of you who've been watching my stories, my videos, stories on Instagram and Facebook, you'll notice that I'm doing really simple meals at the moment, like so simple that it's embarrassing to post them. But that's why I'm feeling so well, because whenever I pull back and go, I need a reset, I'm just going to go back to soups and stews and really simple meat and veggies and stocks with some egg yolks in there and some good fats. My health just goes, yay. My body just goes, yay. My skin, and it's at first it can be hard to avoid things like breads and things, but the more that you get into this way of eating, the more you go, actually, I don't really feel like I need that. And of course it's okay to have treats now and then, but if you really are working on healing, start working towards having the simpler whole foods and just making simple, nutritious meals from good quality, basic whole food ingredients.
Yeah. And the best way to focus on that is focus on what you're adding into your diet rather than what you're taking away from your diet. So if you think, all right, I want to eat more whole foods, and then start with one meal. Okay, I want to eat more whole foods at breakfast. What can I eat for breakfast that's really whole food and good?
Soup.
Soup or bacon and eggs with some avocado and spinach and tomato. So, if you start like that, one meal at a time. And something I really, really encourage people to do is start building trust with your own body, in that it's not about willpower. It's not about shame, blame, guilt, and deprivation. That is never going to get you anywhere. If that is the approach you're taking, I can, spoiler alert, it's not going to work. Like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't ever work. It's just really unhealthy, both physically and psychologically, to take that kind of approach. So if you're already in that headspace, that's when it's like, okay, right, I need to take a step back here. And moving towards something just a step at a time, rather than going, okay, I've had enough of this now, I'm starting my lemon water detox tomorrow. Like, we go real drastic with like, okay, this isn't okay, so I've got to jump to that end and I've got to just go drastic here.
One ditch to the other.
Yeah, exactly. So I just really encourage people to take a step back and take a more wide angle view of their life and how what being healthy really means to you. And it's not just something to do with weight or anything like that, but what being healthy actually means, what that's going to achieve for you, why you want to be healthy. And for me, my health priorities are that, like, I want to live long and I want to live healthily. I want to be healthy into my 90 and 100s. And I want to be like moving and active and feel good in my body and thriving. And I want to have joy in my life. I want to do and achieve the things that I want to do. I want to feel connected to nature, and have really like wonderful experiences in nature, going bushwalking and things like that. So, you know, when I really think about my health priorities, there's no specifics about food there, but I do need to feel well in order to do those things. And I need to be thriving in my health. So yeah, so I've just really encouraged people to start looking at it in that way, because otherwise we get too bogged down in the details of, well, I saw on Instagram that they're doing this lemon detox thing and it looks great and they got all these results, and so I need to do that because I'm not good enough as I am right now. So I need to do that, and then maybe I'll be better.
Well, I'm going to just do celery for 3 weeks.
Yes. Celery.
I'm not.
No, not going to do that. I wouldn't let it. So yeah, so it's really, really important to look at the bigger picture. And yeah, if I could just get every person and get them trusting their bodies, my job on this earth would be done. I just really, really feel passionate about that, because I have been that person where I was yo-yo dieting. I've been extreme in my approaches and just thinking if I just, that worked for a week, so that was the answer, but I'm just not good enough, so I can't do it. Yeah, I really know the other side of that coin now. When you do take it step by step and you do trust your body, our bodies are so intelligent, and our body's always seeking nutrition and it's always seeking health, and we just need to know how to understand that.
And we all just do the best we can with what we've got and where we are. And I know many people worry that, well, I can't do all organic food, I can't afford it, and so I can't heal. Yes, you can. We never have done 100% organic. We just do the best we can. And we've definitely healed just getting as many veggies in as you can, and easy to digest foods and healing foods and meat stocks is just really healing. And even if you can't do it all organic, you will see differences.
We've always had this mentality, diet starts Monday kind of mentality of like, well, then, it starts Monday and then I'm on the wagon, and then it's like, oh, then it's really strict, and
you get to Thursday, you fall off the wagon and you go, oh, well, it's the weekend, I'll start again Monday.
Yeah, we don't do that. So there is no falling off the wagon in this approach as well. It's like really about, you might be eating all your really good whole foods all week, and then you go to a party on the weekend and then there's cake there and you end up having a piece. Whenever a client says to me, oh my God, this happened, I'm like, did you enjoy it? Like, enjoy it. That's the most important thing. Enjoy it. Enjoy your time at the party. Like, it doesn't matter.
Don't eat it with guilt.
Yeah, don't eat it with guilt. That's what I don't like. So I'm like, you just make that decision. You go for it. You haven't ruined anything. It's just in that week, if you look at it more like, oh, look how many good foods I got in that week. That's great.
Exactly.
That's how we focus on it. The more healing foods you can have in your diet, no matter what the whole diet looks like, the better.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope that that's answered a few of your qualms about going on to a gut healing diet, and that it doesn't have to be big and scary, and it can be a gradual, gentle approach, and that it still will make you. It should be a
gradual, gentle approach. That's what I encourage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because that's what we really want to help people with. If you want to know more about the gut health formula, what was the link again? I'll put it below. But that'll be easiest. Thanks guys for watching. If you do have questions for me or Elise, feel free to go to our websites and click on the contact and send a question, or go to our Facebook or Instagram. Thanks guys. Have a great week. Bye.
Bye.